Hey everybody, welcome back to Melody Motel. My name is Lane and this is my podcast and I hope you're enjoying it. We are continuing our history of the Canadian rock juggernauts Sloan leading up to their show in Indianapolis, which is just a little over a month away, September 18th. And in case you missed the earlier episode where I said this is, I guess you'd call one of my bucket list bands. One of my favorites that I've never ever seen. Tom Petty was on that list and then he passed away. REM was on that list and then they broke up. Probably would have had to put Bowie on there, but he passed away also. So I'm glad I get to see Sloan. Really glad that they're finally coming back to Indiana. I think I incorrectly said that they had never played Indiana, but I believe I've been corrected since then. They've probably played Indiana at some point in the distant past, and I dismissed it. But we are continuing that series, and today I'm covering the 5th and 6th albums from Sloan, which would be Between the Bridges and Pretty Together. So let's get into it.
But if you think that it's cold when you're swimming in the ocean, it's hard to believe you're a Nova Scotian boy. Have you considered the cost of abusing your devotion? And if we get lost, we can find out where it was we used to be. We're following signs to the sea. Cabaret license I haven't been by since it goes against all that I've learned. But it seems that the tables have turned. But could we have stopped it? We all
Between the Bridges came out in 1999, and I don't have too elaborate of a backstory for my personal history with the album other than I went into the local record store one day and there it was, and that would have been All Ears in Bloomington on 10th Street. So shout out to Charlie Tish and his great store All Ears, which is no longer there, but it was a good, honest record store, and I enjoyed it. And I went in there one day, and there was a new album from Sloan, so I was very excited. Of course, I invited my good friend Brandon over that very evening, and we listened to it, and we were blown away. One thing about this album that sets it apart from the ones that preceded it was the fact that many of the songs were segued into one another, so it was one long, seamless listening experience. I remember my first impression of it was that it was more 70s influenced than the other Sloan albums. I heard some disco in there, especially on some of the Jay Ferguson songs like Don't You Believe a Word and Waiting for Slow Songs. Maybe a little Fleetwood Mac here and there, but the cover art was 70s influenced. Just the overall packaging gave me that feeling, and it's a good feeling. It's an amazing album, diverse, solid top to bottom. Sloan were still very much carrying the torch for rock. In one of the songs, All By Ourselves, Chris Murphy even says rock and roll is alive and all right, and that's a theme that he'll continue in a big way on the next album, Pretty Together. Not a lot of chart action for this one in Canada. The biggest song chart-wise was Losing California, a Patrick Pentland song, which we'll play here in just a moment. Some of the other songs that were released as singles were Friendship, another Pentland rocker, Sensory Deprivation, which is a huge jam from the drummer Andrew Scott, and Don't You Believe a Word, a Jay Ferguson pop song. So diverse array of songs were released as singles, but none of them had much success except for Losing California, which climbed to 18 on the Canadian charts. Here's Sloan, Losing California, Melody Motel.
Hit rock bottom and everybody knows it, but does anybody care how you got there? Admit to yourself that
Sloan on Melody Motel, Waiting for Slow Songs from Between the Bridges, a song I loved from the very first listen, couldn't get enough of it, wanted to hear it over and over again. Perfect pop from Jay Ferguson and Sloan. Thanks for tuning in. This is fun, going through all these Sloan albums, hearing them again. Not as if for the first time, but like seeing an old friend again after a long separation. So, since I began doing the podcast, I've had a yearly life change in that I've gone back to work. I'm a public school teacher, and on August 1st, I reported back, and so my spare time has vanished, disappeared completely. I am now generally exhausted and want nothing more than to just come home, go to sleep, and upon waking, fill my gullet with trash. But you didn't need to know that. You don't turn into the Melody Motel or tune into the Melody Motel to hear of my sleeping and eating habits. But I digress. What I'm getting at is that I don't have as much time to do the show now, but I'm going to try to keep it going. So I need your encouragement. If you listen to the show, let me know. If you enjoy it, let me know. Stroke my ego, basically, I guess, is what I'm saying. But I'm going to try to keep it up, even though I won't have nearly as much time. And I want to get through all of these Sloan albums before that show on September 18th. So we'll see if I achieve my goal. So we're getting into Pretty Together now from 2001. And